You felt it, haven't you? That shift in the room when you speak differently now. When you question something everyone else accepts without thinking. When you choose solitude over shallow company. They don't say it directly. They disguise it. A joke with an edge, advice wrapped in concern, that uncomfortable silence when you mention something deeper than surface-level chatter. But you know what's really happening. Your evolution threatens their comfort. And no one, absolutely no one, likes being forced to confront their own stagnation. Here's what no one told you. This is the cost of building genuine mental strength, not the Instagram version, not the motivational quote plastered over a sunset. Real strength, the kind that makes people uncomfortable, the kind that frightens them, the kind that exposes without a single word the weakness of those still living on autopilot. This video isn't for those seeking comfort. It's not for those who want their existing beliefs validated. It's for you, the one exhausted from being hostage to your own insecurities, the one standing at the edge of an internal rupture, the one ready to build something no one can destroy, a mind no one can manipulate, a mind that terrifies because it refuses to bend. This path is lonely, brutal, uncompromising, but it's also the only path to genuine freedom. Stay with me, because what Nietzsche understood about human nature will shake you to your core, but it can also liberate you in ways you never imagined possible. Nietzsche wasn't just a philosopher. He was a surgeon of the human soul, someone with the courage to stare into the abyss of existence and not just face it, but dive in head first. And it's precisely in that abyss, in that inner chaos most people avoid their entire lives, that he discovered the source of authentic strength. He wrote, "You need chaos inside you to give birth to a dancing star." This isn't poetry. It's a psychological diagnosis of how transformation actually works. Think about it. When did you grow the most? Was it during those smooth periods when everything aligned perfectly? Or was it when you were shattered, when your relationship exploded and you had to rebuild your identity from scratch? When you lost the job that defined you and had to discover who you were without that title? When you were so lost you had no choice but to find yourself? That's the chaos Nietzsche meant, the breakdown that precedes the breakthrough. But here's what separates the strong from the broken: your relationship with that chaos. Most people experience suffering and collapse. They become bitter, resentful, victims of their own story. They spend decades asking, "Why me?" and waiting for someone to rescue them. But a rare few experience that same suffering and transform it into fuel. They don't ask, "Why is this happening to me?" They ask, "What is this making possible?" They take the pain of betrayal and forge unshakable boundaries. They take the humiliation of failure and build unstoppable resilience. They take the agony of loneliness and discover self-sufficiency no one can touch. This is what Nietzsche meant by saying suffering is not a flaw in existence, it's the engine of human evolution. The comfortable never transform, the secure never discover what they're capable of. It's only when life strips everything away that you're forced to become someone new. And here's the part that disturbs people. When you stop fleeing from chaos and start walking directly into it, you become dangerous. While everyone else is praying for storms to pass, you're becoming the storm itself. But Nietzsche knew chaos alone isn't enough. You can be destroyed by it if you lack an inner anchor, a core that holds when everything external collapses. That's why he did something that still terrifies people today. He killed God. And in doing so, he placed upon your shoulders the full weight of existential responsibility. When Nietzsche declared God is dead, he wasn't celebrating. He was issuing a warning that most people still don't understand. He didn't kill a divine figure. He killed the illusion that someone else is responsible for your life. Think about what this actually means in practice. No one's coming to fix your broken relationship. No cosmic justice will punish the person who wronged you. No higher purpose will automatically make your suffering meaningful. No divine plan ensures everything works out. If you just wait long enough, you're alone, completely, terrifyingly alone. And that realization breaks most people. Because until this moment, it was easy to outsource responsibility. When things went wrong, you could blame fate, bad luck, God's will, the universe's timing. When you felt lost, you could pray for a sign, wait for clarity, ask for guidance from above. Nietzsche tears this veil away. He looks directly into your eyes and says, "There is no ready-made meaning waiting to be discovered. You must create it. Every value you hold, every purpose you pursue, every meaning you find, you must forge it yourself. This is the death of all excuses. Can't find your purpose? That's because it doesn't exist until you build it. Feel like your life lacks meaning? That's because meaning isn't given, it's made. Waiting for the universe to show you a sign? You'll wait forever because the universe is indifferent to your existence. Most people collapse under this weight. The freedom is too much, the responsibility too heavy. So they run back to comfortable illusions, horoscopes, manifestation. Everything happens for a reason. The universe has a plan. But those who stay, those who accept this radical freedom without flinching, they begin to forge something extraordinary. Because here's the secret Nietzsche discovered. This freedom that terrifies you is also the greatest source of power you can possibly possess. When you truly understand that no one is coming to save you, something awakens inside. A fire that compels you to rise even while bleeding. A force that demands you think for yourself, feel for yourself, create for yourself. You stop asking, "What should I do?" and start declaring, "This is what I choose." You stop seeking permission and start taking territory. You stop waiting for the right moment and start creating it. This is what Nietzsche meant by the death of God, not the end of meaning, but the beginning of your power to create it. And once you accept this burden, you're ready for the next evolution, becoming the Übermensch. Nietzsche didn't believe in gradual self-improvement. He believed in radical transformation, in complete reinvention, in the death of who you were and the birth of who you're becoming. That's why he conceived the Übermensch, the Overman. This isn't a superhero, not someone with mystical powers. The Übermensch is a human being who has transcended everything that keeps ordinary people trapped, guilt that wasn't theirs to carry, obedience to rules they never agreed to, morality designed to keep them small, the desperate need for approval from people they don't even respect. The Übermensch doesn't seek acceptance, doesn't ask permission to exist. He creates his own values and lives by them, even when the entire world says he's wrong. And that's precisely why his mind becomes unbreakable. Because it's not built on others' expectations. It doesn't require external validation to know its worth. It feeds on its own will to power, not power over others, but power over himself. The drive to overcome his own limits, to create beyond his current capacity, to become more than he was yesterday. Here's the shift. The Übermensch doesn't adapt to the world, he shapes it. He doesn't ask, "What's allowed?" He asks, "What's possible?" He doesn't seek comfort, he seeks expansion. Let me make this concrete. The ordinary person walks into a room and immediately scans for approval. Who likes me? Who's judging me? Am I fitting in? Their entire self-worth is hostage to others' reactions. The Übermensch walks into that same room and asks, "Is this where I should be? Are these people aligned with who I'm becoming? Does this environment expand me or contract me?" Their worth comes from within, so they're free to choose based on truth rather than fear. The ordinary person chooses their career based on what's safe, what their parents approve of, what society rewards. The Übermensch chooses based on what calls to them, even if it's risky, unconventional, or completely misunderstood by everyone around them. The ordinary person edits themselves constantly, what they say, how they dress, what they believe, to avoid conflict and maintain acceptance. The Übermensch speaks their truth and lets the chips fall. Not from arrogance, but from self-possession so complete that others' approval or disapproval simply doesn't determine their reality. But here's the brutal cost. Becoming this requires sacrifice. You'll have to kill parts of yourself that still beg for approval. That people-pleasing voice that says, maybe I should just go along to get along. That fear of being misunderstood that keeps you silent. That desperate need to be liked that makes you twist yourself into shapes that aren't you. You'll have to face the pain of not belonging, of being the strange one, the intense one, the one who takes things too seriously. You'll have to build your identity from scratch. No template, no guarantee, no one cheering you on. And most people cannot handle it. They surrender before they begin. They run back to the safety of prepackaged beliefs, comfortable roles, identities someone else designed for them. Nietzsche knew this path was lonely. He lived it, misunderstood, called mad, isolated from the world he was trying to wake up. But it was in that isolation he found his freedom. And this is what you must understand. The stronger your mind becomes, the further you drift from the masses. The clearer you see, the harder it is to unsee. The more you evolve, the more you outgrow. But there's something Nietzsche taught that makes this bearable, something that transforms loneliness from punishment into privilege. It's called Amor fati, the love of fate. Nietzsche posed a question that reveals everything about your psychological state. What if you had to live this exact life again? Every moment, every choice, every pain, every triumph, on infinite repeat for eternity. Would you say yes? This is the eternal recurrence. And it's not metaphysical theory, it's a psychological litmus test, because your answer reveals whether you're truly living or just enduring. Most people would recoil in horror. Live this life again, with all its pain, all its disappointments, all its regrets? Never. That reaction tells you everything. It means they're living a life they fundamentally reject. They're tolerating existence, not embracing it. They're waiting for it to be over so they can finally rest. But the Übermensch, the person with genuine mental strength, would answer differently. Yes, 1,000 times yes. Not because their life is perfect or pain-free, but because they've transformed every experience into fuel. Every betrayal taught them discernment. Every failure forged resilience. Every loss deepened their capacity. They wouldn't change a thing because changing anything would change who they've become. This is Amor fati, love of fate, not passive acceptance, not resignation, but active embrace of everything that's happened is necessary for your transformation. And this is where real strength lives. When you can look at your worst moments, the humiliation, the heartbreak, the crushing defeat, and say, I wouldn't undo this because it made me who I am, you become unbreakable. Because if you can love your fate, no one can weaponize your past against you. If you've integrated your pain rather than running from it, no one can use it to manipulate you. If you've turned your suffering into strength, it becomes armor. But this requires something most people refuse to do. Stop being a victim of your own story. The victim says, this shouldn't have happened to me. I didn't deserve this. Why me? The Übermensch says, this happened. What will I make of it? Who will I become because of it? The victim stays trapped in resentment, replaying the injustice, waiting for someone to acknowledge their pain. The Übermensch extracts the lesson, integrates the strength, and moves forward more dangerous than before. Amor fati means you stop arguing with reality. You stop wishing your life were different. You take exactly what you've been given, the good, the bad, the unbearable, and you forge it into something magnificent. This is the hardest teaching to accept, but it's also the most liberating, because the moment you love your fate, you're free. Free from resentment, free from victimhood, free from the fantasy that your life should have been different, and that freedom terrifies people. Because when you stop complaining, stop making excuses, stop needing sympathy for your struggles, you expose everyone still trapped in those patterns. Which brings us to why your strength scares them. If this is resonating with you, click subscribe. This channel exists for those done living on their knees. There's a cost to this transformation that no one warns you about. The stronger you become, the lonelier you feel. Not because you're isolating yourself, but because you're outgrowing your entire social ecosystem. The conversations that used to satisfy you now feel hollow. The complaints that used to seem reasonable now sound like excuses. The people who used to understand you now look at you like you've changed, and you have. Nietzsche was clear about this. The individual must always struggle not to be overwhelmed by the tribe. If you try, you will often feel lonely and sometimes scared, but no price is too high to pay for possessing yourself. Possessing yourself, that's the goal. Not belonging to the group, not fitting into their expectations, not molding yourself to their comfort, but fully, completely possessing your own mind, your own values, your own life. And the price is this: you will lose people. You'll lose the friends who bonded with you over mutual victimhood because you're no longer interested in complaining. You're interested in creating solutions. You'll lose the family members who need you to stay small so they feel better about their own stagnation. Your growth forces them to confront their lack of it. You'll lose the romantic partners who loved your potential but can't handle your actualization. Because the version of you they fell for was safer, more manageable, more controllable. This isn't their fault. It's natural. Most people live in a state of comfortable numbness. They've made peace with their limitations. They've accepted their lot. And anyone who refuses to do the same threatens that fragile peace. Your evolution is a mirror. And most people don't like what they see, so they'll try to pull you back, sometimes openly. You've changed. You're not fun anymore. You think you're better than us. Sometimes subtly. Concerned looks, uncomfortable silences, gradually fading away from your life. And this is where most people break, because the loneliness becomes unbearable. They miss the warmth of belonging. They miss being understood. They miss feeling normal. So they compromise. They dial themselves back down. They apologize for growing. They shrink back into the box to regain acceptance. But here's what Nietzsche understood: that loneliness is not a bug, it's a feature. It's the desert you must cross to find yourself. It's the silence where your authentic voice finally emerges. It's the solitude that separates those who truly want freedom from those who just want to feel special. Because real solitude isn't just being alone. It's being alone with yourself, your thoughts, your shadows, your truths, without distraction, without numbing, without running. And most people cannot handle it. They'll reach for their phone, turn on the TV, call someone, do anything to avoid sitting with the intensity of their own consciousness. But you? If you're truly ready for this path, you'll learn to turn that solitude into sanctuary. You'll discover that your own company is more nourishing than superficial socializing, that your own thoughts are more interesting than recycled opinions, that your own presence is more powerful than performing for an audience. This is when something shifts. The loneliness stops feeling like punishment and starts feeling like privilege, because you're no longer alone. You're finally with yourself. Perhaps for the first time in your life, and from that place of self-possession, you begin to see the world clearly, including the forces trying to pull you back down. Nietzsche didn't fear tyrants or dictators. He feared something far more insidious: collective mediocrity. That invisible system keeping everyone leveled down. That punishes excellence and rewards conformity. That calls ambition arrogance, independence, selfishness, and authenticity arrogance. True oppression doesn't come from a dictator above. It comes from the crowd beside you, demanding you stay small so they don't have to grow. And when you start standing out, When your mind sharpens, your standards rise, your presence intensifies, that's when they attack. Not with violence, with something worse, moral judgment disguised as concern. Nietzsche called this slave morality, a value system created by those who couldn't achieve greatness, so they inverted all values to make their weakness virtuous. They turned strength into toxic masculinity, ambition into greed, independence into selfishness, boundaries into coldness, standards into judgment, excellence into elitism. With this inversion, they created a moral framework where being mediocre is humble, having no standards is accepting, and refusing to grow is being authentic. It's genius, really, because now they can attack anyone who threatens their comfort while claiming moral superiority. Watch how it works. You set boundaries? You're so cold now. You've changed. You pursue excellence? Why do you have to be so intense about everything? You stop tolerating dysfunction? You think you're better than everyone. You invest in yourself? It must be nice to be so selfish. Every move towards strength gets reframed as a character flaw, and if you're not careful, you'll start believing them. You'll start thinking something's wrong with you for wanting more, for refusing to settle, for outgrowing your old life. But here's the truth: they'll never admit. They don't want you to come back down out of love. They want you back down out of fear. Because your evolution exposes their stagnation, your action highlights their excuses, your growth reveals their choice to stay small. You're not doing anything to them, but your mere existence becomes an accusation, and they can't forgive you for it. Nietzsche understood this dynamic completely. He wrote, "The surest way to corrupt a youth is to instruct him to hold in higher esteem those who think alike than those who think differently." That's the mechanism of collective mediocrity. It teaches you from birth to value sameness over truth, to prioritize fitting in over standing out, to see conformity as virtue and deviation as sin. But the strong mind recognizes this trap, and once you see it, you can never unsee it. You start noticing how every social interaction carries an implicit demand: be less, think less, feel less, want less, achieve less, question less, just be less, so we can all stay comfortable. And at this point, you face a choice. You can surrender, apologize for your intensity, dial yourself back, rejoin the herd, and accept a life of quiet desperation surrounded by people who won't challenge you. Or you can double down, accept that your strength will always disturb, that your clarity will always threaten, that your refusal to compromise will always isolate. And that isolation, that judgment, that rejection, it's not proof you're doing something wrong. It's proof you're doing something rare. Because while the world revolves around recycled ideas, manufactured desires, and comfortable lies, you're bringing something it desperately needs but violently resists: confrontation with truth. Your difference isn't a flaw, it's your function. And that brings us to the final confrontation. You made it this far. That already proves something. Most people would have clicked away at the first uncomfortable truth, would have dismissed this as too negative or too intense, would have run back to content that makes them feel good without asking them to change. But you stayed, and that matters. Because building a mind so strong it frightens people isn't just a choice, it's a renunciation of everything you've been conditioned to want. You will lose the comfort of fitting in. You will lose relationships built on mutual avoidance of truth. You will lose opportunities that require you to be someone you're not. You will lose the fantasy that you can be authentic and universally liked. But in exchange, you gain something no one can ever take from you: integrity. You'll never again have to twist yourself into shapes that aren't you. You'll never again have to pretend to believe things you don't. You'll never again have to perform for people who don't deserve access to your authentic self. Clarity. You'll see through manipulation instantly. You'll spot weakness disguised as virtue. You'll recognize when someone's trying to make their problem your responsibility. You'll know the difference between genuine connection and transactional relationships. Presence. When you speak, people will listen. Not because you're loud, but because you're aligned. Your words will carry weight because they come from a place of integration rather than performance. Your silence will be more powerful than other speeches. But here's what Nietzsche knew that most people never grasp. This strength isn't a destination. It's not something you achieve and then maintain. It's a war. A daily, brutal, internal war between who you were and who you're becoming. Between the part of you that wants to go back to comfort and the part that knows comfort is death. Between the voice that says, just fit in, and the voice that says, become who you are. Between the fear of isolation and the hunger for truth. And this war never ends. The truly strong aren't those who've won. They're those who keep fighting even when they're tired, even when they're alone, even when giving up would be so much easier. Nietzsche didn't write these ideas to create followers. He wrote them to provoke earthquakes inside you, to make you stop crawling for approval, to make you stop begging for meaning from systems designed to keep you small. He wanted you to become dangerous, not violent, but rare. So rare that your existence forces others to confront what they're avoiding. And now I'm going to ask you to do something that will solidify everything we've talked about. In the comments, write one truth you're tired of hiding, one opinion you're afraid to voice, one thought that makes you feel isolated but represents who you truly are. Not for me, not for validation, but as a declaration that you're done performing, done shrinking, done pretending to be comfortable when you're built for something far more demanding. Because that's what this moment requires, not more people who know the right things to say, but people who have the courage to become what they're teaching. The world doesn't need more philosophers. It needs more people who live philosophically, who turn these ideas into action, who become walking proof that another way of being is possible. So I'll ask you directly, tomorrow morning, when you wake up, will you go back to performing for the crowd? Will you edit yourself down to make others comfortable? Will you apologize for your intensity and shrink back into the mold? Or will you take one action, just one, that's true to who you're becoming? Even if it scares you, even if it costs you, even if no one understands, because that's the difference between knowing these ideas and living them. The next video continues this path. And if you've made it this far, you know you're not watching out of curiosity. You're here because something inside you has already begun to shift. So keep going. You're not alone. You're just ahead. And that, my friend, is terrifying. But it's also the only way to be free.